Canoodling.
Canoodling.
All right. All right. For Judging Judy. All right.
Hello and welcome to Judging Judy, the comedy podcast that finally turns the tables on America's least favorite TV judge. Today's episode comes to us from back on September 14th, 2005. But before we jump into things, I just have a little advice. The early bird gets the worm. However, worms aren't part of a balanced breakfast, so you might as well sleep in. Now, I've brought in my friend Professor Wikipedia, Doctorate Nilla Wafers, to remind us what was going on in the world when this episode first aired. The president of Pakistan, Pervez Musharraf, shakes hands with the Prime Minister of Israel, Ariel Sharon, the first time such an encounter has been made public. They later high-fived, gave each other wet willies, and slow danced together to Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith. The Massachusetts General Court rejects a proposed amendment to ban same-sex marriage in Massachusetts by a vote of 157 to 39, meaning that Massachusetts would remain, for the time being, the only state in the United States to allow gay marriage. So I guess that means I owe the Bay State an apology. For a bunch of brutish dweebs who cheer for an obnoxious baseball team and have intolerable accents, you're all right in my book, Massachusetts. The Wii Remote was first revealed at the Tokyo Game Show. The motion sensing controller received much attention due to its unique form factor and the gameplay modes it supported. While intended for activities like bowling and tennis in Nintendo's landmark Wii Sports, the Wii Remote could also serve as a missile in situations when you needed a satisfying way to destroy your TV. Thanks for the help, Professor Wikipedia. Now let's check in on the New York Times crossword puzzle for that day back in 2005. The clue for 47 down is implements of Western justice. And the answer is nooses. Finally, let's look at the US box office for 9/14/05. Number 3 was Transporter 2, number 2 was The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and number 1 was The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Starring noted bald man and frequent scowler Jason Statham, Transporter 2 has movie watchers rejoining Frank Martin as he protects the son of a politician from the attacks of an international drug cartel. According to director Louis Leterrier, Statham's Frank Martin was, quote, the first gay action movie hero, given that in the movie he refuses a woman's advances by saying that it's, quote, because of who I am. In both Transporter 1 and Transporter 3, the Frank Martin character has sex with and develops relationships with women, suggesting perhaps that Frank Martin is not only the first gay action hero, but the first gay action hero who goes to great lengths to hide the fact that he's the first gay action hero. Let's get to the teaser for today's episode.
The defendant assaulted you at a party. You started it. He finished it.
Boys, there's enough candy in the piñata for everybody. And look, it's just Charleston Chews and Milk Duds. It's nothing to fight about.
He just talked back and punched me in the face.
Now, violence is almost never the answer, but this guy looks like the kind of guy who says that he shouldn't have to tip the waitstaff because he already paid $11 for a Fiji water. So I don't know. Maybe it is the answer? It depends. What's the question?
Why would he do that?
Jealousy?
Sure, yeah, maybe jealousy, but the guy also just has this kind of face that's begging to be punched. If last week's truck stop macaroni and cheese had a face, it would look just like this guy. All right, let's get to the case. Patrick, a construction worker, is suing Ed, who announcer Jerry Bishop identifies as a security officer and a fellow partygoer, for dental bills accrued after Patrick was, probably justifiably, punched in the mouth.
Ed claims Patrick was the aggressor.
As previously noted, Patrick looks like a Sears catalog model who forgot the secret code word to the Sigma Alpha Delta house and so can't get back to his room to find his dignity.
I can actually picture that.
Ed, on the other hand, looks a little like Sir Ben Kingsley's meaner, more homicidal cousin. And Ed, if you're listening, I mean that in the nicest way possible. Judy goes through the basics of the case again while adding a little more color to Ed's argument.
You were unruly. You touched him first, and he acted in self-defense.
Judy notes that Patrick brought along a witness.
This is the lovely Amber. Sit down, Amber. I'm not...
Sorry.
with you yet, but I will be.
Amber has some definite Poison Ivy vibes, both the comic book character and the itchy allergic reaction. Judy asks Patrick when the incident happened, perhaps the easiest question other than his name, but he struggles to come up with an answer.
If I could recall the exact date, it would be
The questions
April
are going to
3rd.
get harder. Listen to me, Mr. Valentine. The questions are going to get harder. The date should be something that's fixed in your memory.
It should be, yes, I agree, except that Ed punched it right out of him. Patrick eventually remembers the date, but it still earns him this rebuke from the judge.
See, we're not going to play with each other. The only one that has a good time here is me.
The incident at hand, or at fist if you will, happened at a going-away party for Patrick that Amber also attended. Patrick says he's from New Mexico, but currently living in Seattle. I'm not sure which one he was going away from for this party, though I can guarantee he wasn't going to a library or anywhere near any books.
What are those?
Patrick explains to Judy that while he didn't know Ed prior to getting punched by him, he and Amber hadn't been strangers before the night of the party.
Yeah, we've known each other for about 3 years.
Whether it was New Mexico or Seattle, the party was held in an office space that had been renovated into a music venue. Patrick uses this to kick off his explanation of what happened that night.
It was going well, the music was going.
Bro, turn up the volume. The next song is my jam. Presumably in between shots of Four Loko and Yoo-Hoo, America's least edible drink, Patrick says he noticed Ed and his friends, though he made nothing of it at the time. Something about his mumbling, or his lack of eye contact, or his face, or the fact that he keeps shifting in place, or his rambling, or his face, or the giant gap where his tooth used to be, or his storytelling skills. One of those things starts to really irk Judge Judy.
Mr. Valentine, could you try to focus on me, sir?
To be fair to Patrick, which is my top concern, this is the longest he's ever gone without either looking into a mirror or at a Dave Matthews Band poster, so you can understand why this is difficult for him.
Not up in the air, not in the heavens, not at your shoes.
I can't help but feel that Judy ought to accommodate Patrick by either crawling on the floor or climbing a very tall ladder to hear his testimony. With that surely settled, Patrick continues with his story. And within a sentence or two, Judy's clapping on her desk and pointing at her eyes because Patrick's looking at... Well, would you look at that? Most people have a little devil on one shoulder and a little angel on the other. But Patrick, he has two little Adam Sandlers. One is from Waterboy and the other is from Billy Madison.
Can we start the story now?
Patrick laboriously describes the start of the evening. He greeted Amber, they hugged, and talked for a few minutes before she greeted Ed.
She said, "Oh, hi Ed, this is my friend PJ."
Patrick, the evil alter ego of PJ, mimes shaking an invisible Ed's hand. And I thought the joke here was that Patrick shake hands like a toddler pointing at a giraffe at the zoo. Little did I know, the punchline was much better than I could have imagined.
Instead of extending his hand out to greet me, he just cocked back and punched me in the face.
It's worth noting that Patrick also mimed Ed's punch, and it looked no less silly. The camera also panned out a little bit, and you can see now that Patrick probably has 8 or so inches on Ed. Patrick is kind of like Gandalf without the magic or charisma. And Ed is Frodo without the hair, but still with the hairy feet.
The Hobbit has shown extraordinary resilience to its evil.
Now, I'm not bringing up their height just to cast any kind of doubt on the idea that Ed did punch Patrick. I have a lot of faith that he did that. I'm just imagining that in order to do so, he really had to lean into it to get this jerk right in the face. Ed is raising a finger, trying to get a word in, but Judy lets Patrick continue his version of events. He says that now bleeding, he left the party to go back to his car.
I didn't want to fight. I just went, it's my party.
I didn't want to fight. It's my party. Said like a true Ninja Turtle. Patrick says that he didn't call the police because Ed had already left.
How do you know he left already if you went to your car?
Easy answer, Judy. If Ed hadn't left, he'd still have been punching Patrick, preventing Patrick from making it to his car. Patrick says that he noticed Amber dragging Ed out, and I suppose that's plausible, but it in no way precludes the possibility that if Ed hadn't been made to leave, he still might be punching Patrick at his party, to this day, some 20 years later. Ed starts his recounting of events with the Chiron describing him as a martial arts expert, which I'll take to mean that he's punched people before. Prior to the party, Ed says he had taken Amber out for a few drinks.
And while we were having cocktails, I don't drink, but Miss Triolo was. She said she was going to a party she was going to bartend at. Would you like to go?
In Ed's mind, the end goal for the evening wasn't just to eventually punch Patrick in the face.
Hopefully go home later to my house.
Though he concedes that he and Amber weren't officially together yet. I don't know, that probably means he hadn't given her his Letterman's jacket yet. Judy says she's not interested in Ed's hypothetical love life and wants to get back to the party itself. And then she goes and asks if Ed and Amber had dated, and if so, whether it was exclusive or not, indicating that though she officially isn't interested in Ed's love life, she actually wants all of the dirty details.
And I mean everything.
Judy tries to summarize what Ed just said about his evening prior to the party, but mistakenly implies that Ed drank that night as well.
I did not drink, Your Honor. I don't drink. I haven't drank in years. I'm a wrestler. Athlete, professional athlete.
He forgot the word assassin, but we get the idea. We finally made it to Ed's version of the party itself. He says he, a friend who's in the courtroom with him as a witness, and Amber were standing in a circle and talking, which calls into question Amber's commitment to her role as bartender for the evening. Anyway, it's at this point that Ed says that Patrick came into the picture.
Started snuggling up next to Amber.
Further calling into question Amber's commitment to serving drinks for the evening. Anyway, those party attendees must have been parched. Ed says he called out Patrick for moving in on his presumptive date for the evening.
I said, that's messed up, because they were snuggling.
Isn't that illegal?
However, Ed says that this repulsive snuggling alone did not cause he and Patrick to come to blows. He says at this point, he walked away.
Mr. Valentine came up behind me, pursued me down this hallway, and said, "What's up, dog?"
Nothing much, dog. What's up with you?
According to Ed, Patrick did not put his hand out to shake, but instead had his fist out clenched, reaching in Ed's direction. Judy asks Ed how he knew Patrick had done this if Ed was walking away at the time. Ed's story changes very slightly. Now Patrick put his hand on Ed's shoulder before "what's up" dogging him.
That time I turned around and said, "I'm not your dog."
See, if he had been, it would have sounded more like,
Yikes!
Ed admits that at this point he punched Patrick in the face, explaining that this is something he's learned over years of experience.
Through my experience and expertise, I know when someone comes up behind you and says, "What's up, dog?" he has bad intentions.
He adds that someone Patrick's size could hurt someone his size quite seriously, a point that I don't think anyone would contest, except that though Patrick is much taller than Ed, Patrick looks about as strong and tough as a melted marshmallow. I don't doubt that Patrick had bad intentions, or to put it another way, I don't think he had good intentions. But I don't know if he had intended to start a fist fight either. I think he probably just wanted to mouth off and cause a scene and impress everyone with how cool it is that he knows all the lyrics to Ice Ice Baby. Of course, I don't have the same experience that Ed spoke of, and I wasn't there at the time, but I don't know if "what's up, dogging" qualifies as fighting words. Mind you, it's hard for me to admit that because I think Patrick's face alone is an incitement to violence.
Hard to resist, isn't it?
Judy calls Amber up to hear her side of things. She confirms that she spent time with Ed before the party and that he didn't drink. But after that, she gives a couple of wishy-washy answers to questions about if she went with Ed and if she met Ed there.
Why do I feel as if I'm telling the story by myself?
It could be dissociative disorder, Judy. The judge clarifies that her questions are not trick questions, which is exactly what someone asking trick questions would tell you. On that note, as a brief aside, I will remind you, dear listeners, that the police can and do lie to you during an investigation, so don't talk to them, and don't answer any questions without a lawyer. Consult innocenceproject.org to learn more about how the cops are not here to protect you. Amber confirms that she was there when Ed's fist and Patrick's face snuggled together.
And I introduced him to PJ, and instead of them meeting each other, he just socked him in the face.
This is the fourth version of the story. It hews closely to Patrick's retelling, but in Amber's version, we have no aborted handshake from PJ/Patrick. Ed shakes his head at this account as Judy asks Amber what would have compelled this otherwise unprovoked assault, to which she can only speculate jealousy.
I was jealous of Neil Armstrong.
Because odd numbers are the digits of the devil and we've only heard from 3 people so far, Judy calls for Ed's witness Kyle to provide his recollection of the punch heard round the party. Kyle says that previous to the evening, he knew none of the parties involved.
Through a friend of mine, it's a Wednesday night kegger that, as far as I knew, it was like a deal that they had every Wednesday.
Throwing a weekly going away party for yourself sounds exactly like something Patrick would do.
Wednesday night, the West Wing is on. Why would anybody want to go to a kegger?
What if right after Patrick said, "What's up, dog," he had intended to ask Ed if he thought it was likely President Bartlett would really be able to achieve peace between Israel and Palestine at Camp David after having fired his chief of staff, Leo? I mean, he would have added, CJ has the potential to be a good chief of staff, but it feels like she's totally underwater, especially with the president's lingering multiple sclerosis diagnosis.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You know, maybe I've got Patrick all wrong. Illiterate, definitely. A buffoon, certainly, but also a keen fan of TV political drama. Back to the case in Kyle's version of events. When he gets to his part of the story where Ed got frustrated, Judy asks him to do something unusual. She asks him to speculate. It's the exact opposite of what she usually wants. Speculation often results in a good haranguing, a tongue lashing, and a giving of what for. And bear in mind, Kyle just met Ed, so I'm not sure how valuable his speculation is.
I mean, the girl he thought he was coming to meet at the party was...
Canoodling.
Kyle goes on to say that he saw Ed walk away before Patrick approached him.
The guy kind of came up behind him and like kind of turned his shoulder. "What's up, dog?" Ed said, "I'm not your dog."
While saying this, Kyle mimes shoving or kind of brushing aside with his hand. Judy notes it and asks what action he was trying to recreate, but his explanation is limited to a few spineless shrugs.
What does that mean, Kyle?
Kyle clarifies that Patrick put his hand on Ed's shoulder and speculates that Ed took that as a threat and responded by punching him in the face. Having heard enough from the two sidekicks, Judy sends Amber and Kyle back to their respective seats from whence they came.
Go on, now get!
Mr. Tomaselli, you're clearly a very powerful young man.
I think that this is the 2005 version of swiping right. This is as close as Judy can get to flirting.
Right? I hope.
After confirming that Ed is a trained fighter, Judy alludes to what she's learned by way of her grandchildren, who are also involved in martial arts. Now, Judy, if you're gonna flirt with a younger man, I don't know if bringing up your grandchildren is the best route. Then again, you did find some common ground, a shared interest between your potential fling and your grandkids, so I can tell you're trying. Still, it would be like if Ed said he could relate to the judge because, like Judy, his grandmother liked judging people.
You're supposed to be able to control yourself.
Judy mimes a bunch of unfortunate karate hand strikes that fail to resemble anything related to any martial arts, but do kind of remind me of the video for the Bengals Walk Like an Egyptian. Judy says that Ed got angry, and that she doesn't think he controlled himself well that night. I think the facts don't show that, Judy, because to me, if Ed were out of control, he'd still be punching him right now.
Over and over and over again.
You can't even make an excuse that you'd had something to drink.
Assault just goes down better with a couple of Miller Lights. Miller Lights, the beer you can drink when you want to be forgiven for punching a guy in the face. Judy contends that Ed left Patrick badly hurt and that Ed's attack was unprovoked.
He was probably stupid drunk. But you know, he's just sort of a big goof.
I could not agree with the first part of the sentence and disagree with the second part of the sentence more, but I'll save that for my verdict.
If you say so, Your Honor.
The judge argues that Patrick didn't grab Ed from behind, spin him around, and punch him, which is true. But a person can be aggressive, they can be threatening, they can provoke without having to go full Tasmanian devil.
He came up, put his hand on you, and said to you, "What's up, dog?" Now, I don't know what that means, and I may be out of things.
What's more of an understatement, Judy saying that Patrick was probably stupid drunk, or Judy saying she may be out of things? Comment or email judgingjudypod@gmail.com. Ignoring the uncomfortable racial implications of asking her black bailiff, Judy turns to Bird to ask him to clarify.
Do you know what "what's up, dog" means? What does it mean?
How you doing, man?
Yeah, I guess that's right, but it's also not. Context matters. Anyway, Judy babbles some more about how "what's up, dog" isn't a term of endearment, but that it isn't inflammatory.
But it's not, choose your weapons, we're going to joust.
Said exactly like a woman with front row season tickets to the medieval times in Buena Park, California. Now you'll find Judy cheering on the green and yellow knight, alternatively throwing back mugs of mead and chewing on a turkey leg every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, but don't ask her for an autograph or she'll have you thrown in the keep. She goes on to defend Patrick, this time calling him a big doughboy, though if they put his face on the crescent roll tube, Pillsbury would surely go out of business. Judy asks to see the pseudo-Michelin man's medical bills, which include treatment for an infection that left him unable to sleep for 3 days.
Which tooth was it, the tooth that's missing?
I kind of like how this implies the possibility that the large gaping hole in his mouth is from a different fight he lost.
I've done that millions of times.
Coming back from a break, Judy asks Patrick what he does for a living, which is yet another question that stumps him. He starts by saying he does a lot of things, resulting in Judy asking which among the many things he does is his favorite.
My favorite is to sing and host people, kind of like parties.
This is so painful.
That's my
Bailiff Bird, be nice. The big old dumb bag of bleached flour, this sack of Idaho gold potatoes, he just wants to be a karaoke hostess in Japan. Is that so bad? Eventually, Patrick concedes that his day job, while he's working on making his dreams a reality, is in painting and construction.
So I can do anything.
Excluding reading chapter books, Judy reiterates to Ed that Patrick is harmless, and Ed is silently stewing, questioning why he didn't knock more than just a tooth out of Patrick's smarmy, incandescent face.
He's a lover, not a fighter.
And if he plays his cards right, he might be Judy's lover when all is said and done. Judy rules in favor of Patrick for $5,000, so long as he meets her after filming's wrapped up at the judge's box seat at Medieval Times. And he better not bring Amber, or the both of them will learn that Judy's bite is much worse than her bark. Enjoying the pod? Consider supporting us by sending $1 or $2 our way at tiptopjar.com/judgingjudy. Or don't, whatever. I'm not your boss. For case number 2, we've got James, a limousine owner, suing a former client, Tim, for an unpaid hotel bill.
James says Tim is a scammer.
Judy starts not by asking Tim why he booked a hotel through a limousine owner, the question I'm wondering, but by asking him about the work he does. He owns a maintenance company that he took over from his dad about 3 years prior. Judy continues this line of questioning by asking about how frequently Tim's father goes into the office, which Tim estimates at about 2 to 3 times a week. I don't know how Judy's going to keep up this invigorating start to the case. Maybe she'll ask if Tim's dad is more of a Coke guy or a Pepsi guy, if he's ever worn bootcut jeans.
No, thank you.
Are you making this up as we're going along?
Well, I mean, I take notes, but otherwise, yeah, kind of.
You never can tell why I'm asking you these questions.
You got me there, Judy. I have no idea where this is headed. She continues this parade of pokey questions by asking James about his living arrangements. He's bunked up with his fiancée. They moved into a place together 2 years prior to this fascinating interrogation. She even asks for the address, probably seeking to send Tim and his fiancée an edible arrangement, though unfortunately the producers bleeped the address out, preventing us from sending Tim and his fiancée a Nothing Bunk Cake. If either Nothing Bunk Cake or Edible Arrangement wants to sponsor Judging Judy and become the official unsolicited snack of the pod, email me at judgingjudypod@gmail.com.
That's so not going to happen.
How large an apartment is it?
I think I know where this is headed. Tim's about to get a very judgmental roommate. Wait till she asks if he thinks his fiancée will spare room in her closet for about 3 dozen judges' robes. The census-style questions continue, but I won't bore you with them.
Well, that's very kind of you.
Perhaps having reached the end of her list of very interesting questions, Judy whispers to herself that it's like shooting fish in a barrel. And she's right. There are fish brains all over the floor of her courtroom. At last, Judy turns to James, the limousine driver.
Your complaint is that you drove Mr. Halloway in your limousine to a casino.
It's at this point, Judy says, that Tim claimed he had forgotten his wallet, perhaps in his 958 square foot condo at 123 Fake Street. Unable to foot the bill for a hotel room for the night, Tim needed James to put it on his credit card, so the story goes.
I rented 2 rooms for him, $99 each.
So you want to play hide and seek, huh?
If you were hoping for a real explanation as to why one man needed 2 hotel rooms, you're going to be disappointed because we move right on to the fact that James was also gracious enough to give the walletless Tim money from his own pocket that night. Tim, it must be said, tried to repay James $300, but his check bounced, and not because it was handed over while both of them were on a trampoline enjoying a pillow fight. Also, how had Tim planned to get home after his night at the casino when he was sleeping in 2 separate bedrooms? Anyway, Tim contests that what James said, both about the rooms and the check, is untrue. Judy asks Tim to start with his version of events with the check.
Me and my fiancée was having problems at the house. I couldn't get to what I need to get to the bank. I owe him for the $300, but the hotel room, it never happened.
That wasn't a satisfying response. I didn't learn anything of any substance, or anything at all. I think there was something there, something underneath the mumbling, but kind of like the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop, I'm not convinced it's worth digging for. Judy refers back to the submitted documentation provided by Tim, where he said this.
I did give him a check for $300, which was returned. I explained that I had just moved and was having problems with my bank account.
Judy repeats the just moved part again, and I suppose this is her proverbial shooting the metaphorical fish in the rhetorical barrel, given the answers Tim provided verbally to her just a few minutes prior.
That's what I said, but I just moved. If we was having problems, evidently I had to leave.
Judy's grinning, like she's a kid who just discovered that her parents are both having extramarital affairs and now knows that she'll be able to blackmail both of them. She's just so convinced that Tim is lying, and he might be, but it's also possible his fiancée wanted him out of the house, right? But yeah, he's probably lying. He explains that at the time he left the condo, but that he and his fiancée have since reconciled.
I told you the truth.
You know those 8-foot-tall animatronic witches people have gotten in the habit of putting up on their lawns right around Halloween? That right there is the sound that the witches should make. Judy rather abruptly tells James not to be an idiot. While sound advice in general for everybody, limousine drivers or otherwise, Judy is specifically referring to his decision to use his credit card to pay for a client's room and taking a check from that client too. James admits his mistake, kind of like a child saying they'll never accept a bad check again, and then lets the judge take a look at the bill for the hotel rooms.
The rooms you rented for $99, but he certainly did a lot more damage than the $99.
Thank heavens they gave us a close-up of the invoice, and we've got the following from the minibar: white wine, Chardonnay, Pepsi, another Pepsi, champagne, and a Remy Martin. And this was all for a one-night stay. And he got room service, and he ordered movies, and made long-distance calls.
Well, somebody had a bit of fun last night, didn't they?
But the real shocker is this.
I never went in the room.
I knew it. It was a ghost. A ghost with a slight alcohol problem who really wanted to watch pay-per-view hotel softcore pornography. A little too busy reading through the bill, I think Judy missed him saying he hadn't been in the room. By the way, what's the only thing an alcoholic ghost wants to talk about? Booze. Judy asks Tim twice who he was with that night, but she doesn't get a reply, so she turns to James to see if he knows.
He found a couple of young gentlemen. They were walking the street while we were in Old Town Pasadena, and he claimed he's a music producer. And I don't know how he knew these guys can sing, but he made friends with them and invited them later to be picked up in the car, and we drove them also to the Commerce Casino.
Well, at least that would explain the drinks. At the last minute, it also explains the extra room, as James says that Tim didn't want to share his room with the two men he picked up while pretending to be a music producer. But it also opens up a whole series of questions that frankly are probably more interesting than the square footage of his condo, though I fear they may go unanswered. Tim mumbles that it's all lies and that it never happened, but James insists he's not lying and has witnesses to prove it, including the other driver who picked Tim up the next morning. Again, we are really answering a lot of questions here, and yet still a lot of unanswered questions. Let's just see if this other driver can help clear some of it up.
Where did you pick Mr. Holloway up?
Commerce Casino.
Who else was with him?
Two other gentlemen, like young, like two 20-year-olds or something like that.
Maybe that's what you were fighting with your fiancé about.
Satisfied that she's ruined Tim's life, Judy rules in favor of James for $1,113. In his parting words, James drops another bomb. He had been driving Tim around for 4 days. 4 days.
He introduced me to his friends, his family.
Christ, was he your limo driver or was he giving you a kidney? At long last, it's time for the part of the podcast that matters most. It's time for me to judge Judy. I use an imaginary rubric of sorts, but it all comes down to this. Did Judy provide justice? Justice in her decision, sure, but also justice in her demeanor, justice in her words, justice in her deeds, justice to you, and justice to me. If she did, she's innocent. If not, she's guilty. I think Judy got both decisions right. I don't think Judy acted too brazenly or too rudely or too obnoxiously. I think the cases were entertaining. And yet I'm still finding Judy guilty, and it's all because of her infatuation with Patrick from the first case. Look, I don't think Ed should have punched Patrick. I think that violence should be a last resort, and that Ed had plenty of other options in that situation other than violence. As annoying as Patrick was in the moment, as angry as Ed was at getting ditched by Amber, Patrick did not deserve to be punched. Certainly, in that moment, Patrick did no physical harm to Ed that would justify getting hit in the face. But Judy went too far in exonerating him just because of his gigantic, pasty appearance. She said Ed ought to have shown more self-control. She said that Ed had no excuse because he wasn't even drinking. All the while, Judy swooned, calling Patrick a goof, a doughboy, and a lover. Patrick didn't deserve to get punched. But the Patricks of the world also don't get a free pass just because Judy thinks their stupidity makes them cute. And for that reason, today, Judy is guilty. With that noise, it's time for Hangman, but this isn't the Hangman you played when you were a kid. You know, when you really ought to have been breaking up with your high school girlfriend. No, this is Hangman with stakes. And this week, we're putting zoos on the gallows. Though mostly known as places where you can buy Despicable Me Ice Pop for $8, many zoos also have animals. And not the stuffed kind, real live animals. And if I win today, zoos will continue to exist. However, if I lose, the locks are coming off the enclosures and the zoos are shutting down. There will be brown bears in the street out for honey and revenge. There will be snakes knocking at the glass of your window while you sleep asking you how you like it. There will almost definitely be hippos, and you better believe they will be hungry. Now, as always, I'm using hangmanwords.com, and this week I'm going back to their TV words list. As a reminder, I can make 6 incorrect guesses, 6 letters that aren't in the word until I lose. And finally, this is an audio medium. Deal with it. All right, so our answer again is from the television words list, and it is 2 words. The first one is 7 letters, and the second one is 5 letters. So let's start off big. Let's start off wild with an E for elephant, the kind of thing that will no longer be in a zoo if I get this wrong. Instead, it'll be out there stealing your peanuts, stealing your peanut M&Ms, stealing your Reese's peanut butter cups. There's one E. It is the third from the back, third from the end of the first word. So blank, 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 E, blank, blank, space, blank, 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 blank. Let's go with P as in piranha, the kind of thing you can expect to find eating your pastries from your pantry if zoos close down. There is no P. So I have 5 more incorrect guesses, and my hangman has a head. Let's go with T, as in the letter in the alphabet. So it is the last letter of the second word. Blank, 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 E, blank, blank, space, blank, 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 T. And remember, we have the television words list. Let's go with another vowel. Let's go with A for aardvark. There are 2 A's. Blank A, blank, blank, E, blank, blank, space, blank, blank, A, space, T. Let's see if that's AST at the end. It is not, but there is an S. It is the first letter of the second word. So blank A, blank, blank, E, blank, blank, space, S, blank, A, blank, T. Remember, I said this would be a lot better if it were a visual medium. Well, I said something like that. Anyway, let's see. Let's go with N, as in it will be nice if zoos are still open. There's no N, so I have 4 more incorrect guesses. Let's try R, as in are you ready to see if zoos will still be open? The answer depends on if I win this game. There is an R. It is the penultimate letter. So that second word is now S blank A-R-T. It could be smart. It is smart. So maybe this is a character from Get Smart, because I now have M-A blank blank E blank blank, and then the word smart. I've never seen Get Smart. Let's go with D. There is no D. Oh, is it Matthew? No, I already did the T's. Let's try H. No H. What name could this be? Should I C? There's no C. So I have 1 more incorrect guess, and I'm assuming it's something from Get Smart. L? There are 2 L's. M-A blank blank E-L-L, smart. If you know the answer, email judgingjudypod@gmail.com or comment. And send it retroactively about 7 weeks ago, okay? Send it to me on January 16th. Maffle? Maggle? I feel like maybe Maxwell? Maxwell Smart. Maxwell Smart. You teamed up with me, we teamed up together with the Judging Judy podcast to save zoos. Now go out there and support their conservation efforts. Go out there, buy Despicable Me Ice Pop, say hello to the giraffes, feed the ducks, do what you gotta do. I did what I had to do. Maxwell Smart did what he had to do, and we saved the zoos. Before you go, I just wanted to share an out-of-context quote from Judge Judy. If you're gonna have a gun in your home, you better make sure that nobody but somebody who's going to use it appropriately gets their hands on it. That's it. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, fornicate, share, and like, but whatever you do, don't pick up two men in Pasadena.